Uh, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be discussing AI across different industries with Noureen Syed from IBM Consulting Practice. This is a very exciting topic. As you know, AI is everywhere in all the news, and how companies are actually using AI. That's going to be an interesting conversation today. So my name is Alina. Do you see my slides? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Just about me, I am a machine learning and AI expert with over 20 years of experience. And I'm also the CEO and founder of AI Future Leaders. We are an AI education company. We do webinars. We have got lots of interesting content. And welcome. So about Noureen, let's introduce Noureen, a data leader, an AI leader at IBM Consulting Practice. Noureen has been in this field for many, many years, over 15 years, I would say by now, right?
A bit more, yeah, 20 almost.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Focused on empowering teams, data, consulting, Microsoft, a lot of Microsoft experience around AI, automation, helping customers accelerate that adoption and solutions and to get that impact with AI across businesses. Noureen, if you'd like to tell us a bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Alina, and good evening, everyone. Like yourself, also a mom to a 9-year-old boy, so he's my latest project as well, always and for always. But outside of that, between work life and home life, I enjoy fitness, travel, and really connecting with people. And it's a funny thing to say that because in the world of AI and digital transformation, connecting with people is still kind of remains the top of my list, right? That's where the magic happens. And speaking of that connection, this is how Alina and I connected at an event recently, and then here we are. So I'd still say that doesn't replace any technology today.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get going. How do companies use AI? There is so much, even this topic of AI, it's so big and broad. You have got machine learning applications, you have got generative AI applications and use cases. We have got AI, for example, to identify fraudulent transactions. And then we have got another AI that summarizes it, creates reports, and maybe sends it out. So this field is huge. There's AI from manufacturing, healthcare, doctors are using it to identify tumors. There's image recognition, optical character recognition. Manufacturing are using it across the board now. And this is huge. This is not another bubble, I think. I think this is very huge. So what kind of interesting use cases have you come across?
Yeah, and I'd say, Alina, before we even get into the use cases and the industries, and I'm sure everybody wants to kind of jump there and start relating to it, you can almost kind of step it back and look at it by function domains that each business, regardless of industry or vertical, has to kind of go through. And so, I've kind of pulled this together, a bunch of insights. So IBM has a system research arm called IBM Business Value Institute, IBV. And what's great is they take engagements that IBM Consulting does with clients, then they do direct surveys with enterprise and CEOs of all sorts of enterprise, mid-size, small businesses, right? And then they kind of correlate all of that, and they get a chance to take between who's at the start of their journey, who's already adopted AI, who's seen the most benefit. So based on all of that insight over the last couple of years, really since, AI is a decade-old technology. The generative AI part is what kind of incepted and kind of really got commoditized in, I want to say, November 2022. So this is where it really then started booming and became a readily available use technology. No longer needed to have giant, data scientist teams to come up with your next AI project. So that's what's really changed and transformed. And so then if you bring that back to, look, we were already on a digital transformation journey. And then what really accelerated that is when, unfortunately, COVID happened, everybody's locked at home. you needed a quick way to be digital. You no longer could process the typical things you did in paper. Funny enough, a lot of that business still happens that way. So if you look across the functions of your company, from product engineering to what IT and tech modernization is doing. And the top two, I'd say, are probably the most advanced, just because they happen to be IT fields, they happen to be technology fields. They're at the forefront of anything new that comes out. But as you start going down that function list, business operations, finance and procurement, customer service, sure, you might have a chat bot and FAQ bot that you might have built back in 5 years ago, but is it really dynamic? Is it really customizing recommendations? Is it really helping you drive more revenue? Like, all of those things are to be seen. And then you go down to even marketing, supply chain, risk compliance, sustainability. All of these functions are very manual today. There are calculations, there are reports, and there are dynamic changes. For instance, risk and compliance, there could be new compliance rules and regulations that are coming out. And you have somebody that's manually looking for a news tip and alert, then kind of manually making that change to a very monolithic process. So in all of these use cases, I'd say there is a huge opportunity for AI to not augment, but really invent and change the way we do this work. Right. So then you start looking into, okay, well, what in product engineering, and who are the industries that are really going to benefit from that? Retail, consumer electronics, automotive, and even in retail, I'd say like CPG, some of the food folks. Because when you talk about like ingredients in a product list, and really like the inception of product creation, compliance, all of that really could kind of benefit from AI assistance, to rapid prototyping, to what happens when we're releasing the next ice cream flavor and we just swap out this content and put this in. You could do that real time, really fast with AI. Just an example. Anything you would add to it?
For sure. I used to work in retail. I used to actually work at Canadian Tire for 4 years. I'm in charge of the customer loyalty analytics program. And we leveraged machine learning to identify customers. And then we would figure out who is the best customer for a certain campaign or a certain offer. And we also, the classics, like we looked at what are some of those product recommendations that we can do, how to optimize those coupons and the offers. And we had lots of interesting predictive models to predict that customer behavior, to better understand who is going to be interested in a certain product, or who is going to be more likely to respond to a certain campaign. So a lot of this around marketing, and to extend that relationship of the customer with the company. So these things have been around for some time. But now with generative AI, we can take it a step further. We might have models that are identifying the best customers for, let's say, certain products. And yes, and then we could actually have AI to actually create the marketing campaign, the images, the creative, that content, that style, right? And because we can do as many images as possible, we can actually hyper-personalize this so that every customer might see something special and different that's based on their browsing history, based on their purchasing history, based on their interests, just based on what they do, or maybe what even they don't do, type of thing, right? And so the AI comes in and identifying the customers, identifying those opportunities, recommending the right product, optimizing even that marketing offer, because certain individuals, maybe they don't need the marketing offer. They're just going to come into the store. And other ones, you may want to optimize this. So lots of application across retail marketing, and the actual product itself. Actual product itself can also benefit from this. Many years ago, I consulted for, I called them a cookie factory. They made energy bars. Those energy bars that you see in the stores. And they spent a lot of time researching the competition, the ingredients, how do you make it a healthy energy bar in a way that's also going to resonate with athletes, with general population, those individuals that go to the gym and they want to grab something. And they took a lot of research, and there was a ton of data, a ton of data. And now I'm looking back. That was happening, 10, 15 years ago. Now with AI, all of the massive, data that they have collected, now they're able to do these things at a fraction of the time.
Right.
Before, they needed a huge department, they needed a lot of individuals, lots of compute power, lots of time to make sense of the data. Now, not so much, not so much. And they can go from idea to product and prototype much, much faster. And that's what I'm seeing. And the top product engineering, you have got an IT. Yes, even in the work that I do with my team, we are seeing AI helping, coding tasks. We have got AI to automate test cases and testing.
User stories, like there's
User
endless
story.
possibility. Exactly, you could do the same.
25% of the time that used to be spent by individuals, a quarter of the job pretty much testing and back testing, regression testing, or generating those tests. Now AI is able to speed that whole piece up. And there are companies, in some companies, half of the code that's written out there is done by AI. What other cases you have seen in
I mean, before we jump off, I really like your point on the retail. And I was doing a workshop with one of the retail that does back to school campaigns, right? It's coming up. I know, can't believe it. It's already going to be August in a week. So what was interesting is I know we talk a lot about like you don't no longer lead large teams, but in talking to this particular retail, we realized that when back to school rolls around, they generally have like one or two, they want to do 6 campaigns. They want to target 6 different segments, loyal customers, etc. But they're constrained. Like they actually do not have enough resources, and a campaign takes them 6 weeks to put together, and then all the moving parts and pieces. It's not just the pretty decks within the organization, but the connections to the suppliers to make it, put it in place. And with their current hiring staff, they can't throw more people at it. They simply can't execute more. So we talked about how AI could help them get targeted, get into some of the segments where they know there is additional business to be had. And then because the AI would collapse it, it's not that they would get rid of their existing team, but allow the existing team to do more targeted campaigns, right? And so we're like, imagine if you have data on that loyalty customer who's got 2 kids, one in primary school and one high school, or one in university, whatever, they're spread across different grades. Now imagine the target offer that you give to them, slightly different versus, oh, it's back to school for everybody. Well, that's very generic. Yes, it is, but you can target them based on the age of their kids, what's on trend for those kids and all sorts of things. And that could be a very customized, applicable target for each of those segments. And it could uplift and do better revenue generation than sales. So I think the power of amplifying, because most people think, oh my God, AI is going to come in and take over, and that's it, we're all going to be out of jobs. But I think there's a flip side. If you look at your day-to-day, the amount of administrative things we all do, the manual things, the paperwork, the process from here to here, we jump hoops. It's like, if you could abstract away some of that, I could focus on more higher value work. I could focus on doing more of the quality work, or the work that's going to have higher impact. And that's really sort of a key theme when we do this research. It's not really about the use case, it's about the high value, high impact, high ROI use case at the end of the day. Because otherwise use cases are endless. I had another client that said, Noureen, I don't know what files are there in my storage, and generative AI looks like an amazing search bar. So can I just ask it to like fish through my dumpster of storage and get me stuff? I was like, you could do that, but really that's not an ideal use case, nor is it best use of your resources. Like, let's look at something that provides, like, just being able to search. That's a data, storage problem and a data cleanup problem. So AI is also not just the answer, and like, it can't be the hammer for every single nail out there. So you have to be careful around that. And sometimes it's just a simple automation problem, right? That's the other part.
You always have to throw AI in it.
Just for good measure.
And now everyone is so excited, right? And people are plugging it every which way. Also, people are confusing things. You've got, and I got this question actually this morning. Why do you have this Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT? How are they the same? How are they different? Why do you have all of these tools? And why would we have a custom tool that's in-house, that's maybe built in a special safe way with certain guardrails? Why have it when you've got so many exciting AI tools and products out there? And how come, some of these tools maybe are not that safe to use? And maybe you should do some research, right? Do you trust some of these tools out there? So companies are getting excited, but at the same time, there is a bit of hesitation. And in these use cases that we are discussing, we are talking the custom build use cases. It's
Right.
the ones where we custom develop for a particular company, for that particular data, or
Absolutely.
for that particular product or service.
Yep.
But any company out there, think about any company out there. You've got products, you've got services,
Yep.
all of it, and you will have data. You'll have data about your customers, you'll have data about your operations, you'll have sales data, lots of different types of data. And AI could be applied across all of that to, yes, find that efficiency and to help the everyday tasks even, or even help your core business. So if you're trying to get more sales, yes, you can leverage it by, let's say, finding and optimizing the best customers. So those leads, identifying those leads, scoring them, the lead generation, the scoring piece. And then you need to maybe talk to these potential customers. Then AI could come in to help you create those images and those marketing campaigns where if I'm a mom with kids, I'm going to see something that's more appropriate and more interesting for me, as opposed to somebody else who might, have different types of hobbies, for example. And then AI definitely is helping, maybe not so much taking over the jobs and the tasks, but for sure helping us do more with our time. For
Yeah, and
sure.
I think if you talk about and let's, I think consumer, customer service, sales, and finance, banking, retail, these are sort of like the low-hanging easy fruit. Like I guess if you talk about like risk compliance, supply chain, okay, for a manufacturing client, reducing their cost of invoicing because they're dealing with a number of vendors and suppliers, right? Really kind of reducing the cost and increasing a better response rate to the issues they have to triage in the supply chain. I think that's what's impactful for them. So there's a subtle change in what's most impactful, but when you come into manufacturing, I think that's the one. Like in one IDC study, they said sales and certainly customer service functions are going to be the first top most AI use cases, because you could just see like anyone can kind of envision and imagine those. But there are certainly those more complex one too. And then if you get into like any knowledge workers, so anybody who's doing planning and analysis work. Now I was reading one Gartner study that was saying, planning and analysis is sort of one of the more lesser value AI items. And I think that study was about 6 months old, so it might have changed now with the advancement in AI. But initially it was good at generation. But when you wanted to look across a plethora of data and then connect those insights, why it's not great, I do want to kind of call that out, is because that's the higher value work. That's the critical thinking you're supposed to bring together on why this data source talking to this data source and what is the connection together that it's going to empower. So once you ask it the right question, or once you pull out that connection, then you can certainly have the AI continue to kind of evolve and build on that. But I think that onus on driving that critical thinking and what that connection is, that's going to do something better for you and provide value, is still on us to kind of help drive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you
So
definitely need an expert.
yeah,
I'm finding the highest ROI because we're talking about exciting AI use case, but not every AI use case generates value. Not every AI use case out there gives you that return on investment and succeeds. Many actually do fail, and
yeah,
many do fail because either you are not selecting the right use case, or you are not solving the right business problem. You might be selling a certain product, but you took and plugged in, let's say, Microsoft Copilot to help you write emails, and maybe you are doing something, AI around document summarization, where your core business might be selling something.
yeah,
And that's where the highest gain going to be, identifying those sales opportunities for you. Or if you have an attrition problem, if you're a company where you have a problem with customers going, you might want to understand why.
Right. Oh, Alina, I lost audio for you. I don't know if it's just me. Can anyone else hear her?
No, I think we lost audio for him.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
How about now?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. It for some reason switched. That's okay. So yes, the use cases need to be the right use cases for your business. So if you're a company with attrition problem, you need to apply for most likely AI to help you identify why customers are going, identify those risks of churn, customers leaving you, and you might want to understand the reasons. So one way to go about it is understand customer complaints or survey your customers or just understand what are people saying about you in those blogs, in the media, right? And you could go about using natural language processing to understand all of that interesting unstructured data that customers are saying about the product to better understand, is it the product or is it the servicing fees or the cost or what is it? Or maybe it's just not easy to navigate your systems or your platform. So companies can definitely leverage AI to improve their services, their products, and to generate that value. But again, many customers fail. What do you think are some of those biggest challenges as to why companies fail with AI?
I think there's a couple things. One, there's a lot of fear of, in terms of like governance, right? People are afraid of becoming a PR headline. I know there's some failed cases, and then accountability on if AI answers a certain way in a customer service response, who's accountable, and well, it's determined regardless of your AI answering it. You as the company are providing that response in a customer service. You are responsible. So there's a little bit of that. And I think the best way we kind of say is, look, you have to go into AI knowing that it's an iterative process and it's meant to fail, like accept failure and think of it as a stepping stone, think of it as a continuous loop of learning. So as long as you're not expecting like we're going to have a little pilot and then we're going to go live and that's it, there's no in between. Like that's the hardest challenge and barrier that you're standing up for yourself. But if you kind of say like, we're going to roll it out in phases, we're expecting some ROI, and then eventually it'll improve. I have a customer, like it's a worldwide global consulting client of ours, where from a retail standpoint, we were initially doing customer response. And when we started kind of building customer response to inquiries, I think we only had 67% accuracy. In order to get to the high 90s, the amount of compute and training we would have to do was not kind of hitting the ROI. But as we continued working with the system, building on, doing reiterations, we did in fact actually end up getting to 92% accuracy or something like that. And it was a matter of time and giving it chance. Like we couldn't do that overnight. But in order to keep the cost balance, we were able to do it over a period of time. And we still kept human in the loop as the last sort of, glance, look, and send out. And then when we compared it to sort of a standard case of call agents responding directly, the same inaccuracies were there. Like, do you not have a call agent that, doesn't understand the company's policies or responses on certain misanswers and misfires and misanswers a customer's inquiry? A human can do just exactly that. So this, oh my God, the AI might answer wrong. Well, it was quickly realized that in the real use cases, you still have that issue as well, right? And so there is an in-between, there is that constant training. And then if you're training the AI on that manual call log where you've got a combination of human error and right responses as well, it's sort of that same iteration that we had to kind of go through with the AI to evolve it. And then I think the beauty of the AI is that on continuous learning it offers, right? So if you're able to kind of mark, are these answers accurate? They're not, as clients give you feedback, as you give it feedback, all of those things really help you improve your performance over time, just like you could train a person to do it. And there's always obviously a time and place. We're seeing, I think, a lot of interesting use cases and headlines in the industry where someone, and I think a monolithic or an enterprise can't probably be as risky as sometimes a startup is, and a startup will go, oh, we're going all AI, and then next month the announcement is actually no, we're going to rehire some people back because we swung a little hard too much the other way. We're bringing the pendulum back. Whereas I think the enterprises, again, if they're chipping away at the problem, and at the same time, I think the key is reinventing how they work. Because I think most organizations are at the point of, how do I use AI to augment what I do? So that's a place to start. Great. Okay, what are all the mundane, administrative, workflow, manual process, paper-based things that I can automate and move into an AI agent or something like that? That's a good starting spot. Let's start there, get comfortable with it. The next one is going to be, how am I going to use it to generate new ideas? How am I going to use it to really kind of add revenue, create new streams? Because a lot of what I have here is sort of some of that existing, like, in IT, yeah, you have a lot of code stuff that happens. So can you introduce, can you expedite DevSecOps, code generation? Can you do better data engineering and reduce how complicated it is to integrate between your data sources? That's all the traditional stuff. And if we talk about, have people done that? Well, no, they're probably still trying to figure out these cases. But then when you start doing the customer or even cyber threat, security threat predictions, I remember having a conversation with someone going, when we put in a cyber threat protection system, it just throws alerts all day long. And we're so overwhelmed with the amount of alerts that we're not even actioning all of them or knowing which ones to action. So we got to a place where we started monitoring our cyber threats well. Are we now accurately actioning the ones we need to ASAP? No. So again, that's where AI could come in and help you pick out the right things on higher value, high impact that are going to help you. So that is, where you have a lot of volume of data. And the third one I'll say is, you talked about it, Alina, it's a little bit of this unstructured data, right? Everybody has lots of unstructured data. So anytime, especially if there's like PDFs and things, and you can extract that data, because even OCR and document intelligence platform systems have really, really improved over the years. So the compute that's available to feed the AI has really improved. That can be a game changer. And I'm finding that is another common use case, whether it be in sort of processing of any documents. So think about like RSP applications, mortgage claims, benefits claims, anything that's a document where you have to go submit a health form. All of that can now be extracted and processed and probably shelved off and actioned in a very automated way, reducing time, intake, and healthcare, all of these things, right? That we're kind of talking through. There's a couple of other things. Again, we already touched on a lot of these, personalized marketing, et cetera, but in financial services, better algorithms kind of do better financial fraud detection. So just, in the traditional models, we had like better prediction recommendation, but better detection, again, from this plethora of data and significantly reducing your risk. These are applicable AI use cases as well that you kind of look at. And then anytime you have amounts of data, you kind of alluded to that. So healthcare is another great example, is again, how can you comb through all of that data, pull out the thematics out of it, and help kind of reach a solution, in this case, a diagnosis, faster, right? So those are applications. They're the art of the possible. I really encourage people that are kind of watching this and looking at this, make sure you make that a reality, because I think that's the art of the possible. We know that can happen. Whether companies are actively doing that, I think, is yet to be seen. I don't know if you've seen otherwise from your experience.
That actually is amazing advice. You need to understand what's possible, that art of the possible, and educate yourself as to what are those use cases and what is a good use case for AI and what is maybe not a good use case for AI. And if you could maybe tell our audience, what are those top 3 things you would need to succeed with AI? Because we are hearing data in all of this discussion, that theme of having good data, the right type of data or a good quality of data. And what are those top 3 things that you're thinking would be, for successful AI applications?
Yeah, and what I would say is AI is that fancy like function on top, right? But actually, anytime an organization is blocked from doing AI, we find out it's the data fundamentals. If the data is sitting in separate silos, haven't kind of migrated their way to like offering data as a catalog within the organization, allowing data sharing within the different groups. Imagine you have one line of business that sells widgets and another line of business that's selling something else, but there's a potential to cross-sell. And if you haven't gone to that point and it's only like someone's manual idea to do it, but your data isn't allowing you to do that, that's a basic start. And so bringing in AI to do that magic is wonderful afterthought, but actually you got to first get that data probably into a single spot. And if that's too expensive to do, you have to have a central spot that at least reads those data sources and pulls in compliantly what can be mirrored and put together, you know, following all the privacy compliance laws, regulations, of course, right? But kind of going through that process to pull the data together that can be pulled is really step one. And having clean data, kind of having lineage on it, kind of having data governance, even that. You could argue that data governance wasn't big. In the last 2-3 years, every client I talk to wants to do data governance projects, talk to their line of business, identify the metrics that are important to govern the data, who's checking in, who's authoring in, what's the relevancy, what's the reliability of this data, the quality of this data. That's become a net new issue. Why? Because again, the AI requires data, but if the data is garbage in, you're going to get garbage out as your output. So the quality of the data and the governance of that data is sort of the second thing. A lot of organizations have a lot of data, but they have to have now good governance around it. And then, you know, and in sort of these two, before I go to the third, is you could again argue, well, then we're never going to do AI because these problems can be solved. Again, it's an iterative process. You don't have to finish cleaning all your data before you can put in your first AI use case because it'll never be out fully clean. So you have to have thresholds of acceptance. And just like, you know, you're never going to have like the perfect call center where everybody always perfectly answers your client questions. Like those are the levels of tolerance that your strategy has to inform. And it kind of weaves into the world of AI as well. And I think the last one really is, it's a good segue. Let me kind of go into here, which is, really kind of looking at AI as not, you know, you can kind of start into that third one as incorporating it as a tool into existing process and methods. Like that's what everybody's doing, like seeking to improve productivity. But where the North Star is, if I could kind of, again, get you to look at the art of the possible, is the companies that get beyond that phase and ultimately look at how do we generate new ideas, go disrupt the market, inspire new products and services, and create new revenue streams that haven't been previously imagined are going to have the highest value. Again, not all of you will be able to do that. So start here, get comfortable. And that's the third, the stop that you're kind of going to, right? And again, there's a research that's kind of done this work for about 10 of the industries that are kind of harnessing it well to supercharge. And I've just got like a snippet that's a bit of an eye chart on the next slide. So we don't have to go into it just in the interest of time. Yeah. But Alina, please welcome your thoughts as well, because you're in financial services. That's one of the ones in there. You tell me.
Definitely in financial services, there's the big thing around the governance of the data and the AI, and also about using AI safely. Because if you are in a financially regulated industry, think to yourself, banks or healthcare, that's also a very regulated environment. You need to apply AI in a very safe way to protect the customer data. And a lot of these AI applications do tend to be internal, not so much customer facing, but internal. And you talked about document processing. So speeding up the efficiency. Let's say you're applying for a mortgage or a credit card, lots of paperwork, tons of paperwork is involved, right? But AI could come in to understand those documents and to speed up that whole pipeline, and you're going to have a better customer experience because potentially you are going to get that credit card sooner or faster. And I see you're referencing a book here by IBM. And could you tell us maybe a bit about that one?
Yeah, this so this one is really talking about these 10 industries that in the era of AI like are doing things well, right? And it talks about how they're harnessing AI not just to again become productive, augment, but really kind of change. So you know at a very high level, you're really kind of looking at you have to rewrite how your organization comes to the day. And that requires, by the way, a huge uplift of change management. That's the third one you were asking, like to do AI well. Like, we talked about sharing of data, having data in one spot, the quality, the governance. And the third one is really this AI literacy and upskilling and transformation. Because once you enable people with AI, give them a chance to play around with it, they will start reinventing the day. Now, no one, like, if we reflect back a couple of years ago when cars first came out, did anyone worry about how we're going to use cars and what we're going to do? Same with when phones came out. I don't think that was ever a worry on how we're going to get people to use phones. It just kind of became embedded. AI is that similar, if you will, ubiquitous phone sort of moment.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be AI in our days, and it's already there. You've been using it. If you use auto typing, autocorrect, like, half of these things that you've been doing already are forms of AI that you've been using, and now they're just more advanced. So they're going to continue to take over more of your day and allow that. And I think some folks there don't even have to be in technology. I was exchanging a conversation with a young lady whose daughter is like a cheerleader, and she's like, she uses AI so well. And this lady works in technology, and she's like, I was thinking I have to train her. She doesn't know I'm the nerd, but she's like, no, this, like, it's part of her day. So you don't even have to be in a technology profession or a technology company to use AI. It is just embedded in our days, right? And you really start thinking about reimagining. So in banking and finance, you kind of talked about, it's really going to be like higher value services, as you said, embedding it in finance, wealth management, and really reimagining your core operations, but like also doing better risk efficiency. And we talked about when we talk to retail, I think there's huge impact, right? Hyper personalization, tailoring omni-channel experience, sentiment analysis was sort of the old thing, but now think about like your ability to reach across channels as well. And they might become virtual mediums to, what people are experiencing, trying out, etc. And then in the telecoms, they're looking at how Gen AI will create opportunities completely outside the telecom industry and allow them to navigate into some areas that are not core business today. So that's a huge business transformation. That's like literally changing the industry, right? If you think about automotive and driving, they're looking at how, we keep looking at self-driving vehicles and things like that. So the game is changing where you're no longer buying a vehicle, but you're buying a software that provides the experience of touring, right? Or like it could be a huge automotive brand differentiator on what that car means. Maybe no one's buying a vehicle that gets you from point A to B, and no one's buying like, oh, how you experience the road and how you drive it. That's the old branding. But think about in a self-driving world, if I'm not driving, why do I care how the car drives and rides? And maybe I care about how I feel when I sit in it and what I can get done. But it's a differently new imagined world, right? That's going to take place. So this report kind of really talks about reimagining your business in an AI era.
So many of us don't need to know how the car drives. We just need to know how to use it.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the same with AI. And these days, AI is for everyone. It's not just for coders, because you can talk to AI through natural language. You can just ask it questions. You don't necessarily have to. In the olden days, we have to write a ton of code against a database to extract some data to make sense of it. Now you can just ask a natural language, like you just ask a question. Tell me about my sales in the past 3 months. Who were my best customers? And you are going to get amazingly good answers, because on the back end, AI is going to write that code for you against that database, but it's going to happen pretty seamlessly. And that's the beauty of this, because now teenagers can go and do tons of interesting, cool things with AI. They can ask questions, do analytics, research. You don't have to be the coder anymore. And AI is replacing a lot of the coders because it's becoming so good. And it's across so many industries.
Yeah, and I would add for the young folks that are learning AI, do take the time to become a SME expert of whatever it is you're asking AI. Because one of the amazing things about AI is, yes, it can provide beautiful answers, but you ultimately need to decide if that answer is great, good enough, accurate, right? And I'm not saying that because AI just has hallucinations and, oh my God, why can't technology improve and reduce the hallucinations? We'll get there. But still, in order to have higher value, it is important that you're still bringing the critical thinking. Like, yes, it can provide you inputs, but it doesn't remove what you do with that information, how you action. Like, you know, how we say strategies is something in a deck, but then without execution, like strategy is useless. Same is sort of true with AI. If it surfaces, brings you the analysis, like you need to know what it should go analyze. You need to ask what should be done with that analysis. You need to know why you're doing the right analysis. Like, I don't know if all of us remember, but in grade school, we were taught biases and data graphs, like simple bar and table chart graph, and how you represented and how you set that scale and how big and small a bar showed visually could have a different impact on how someone saw data. So if all you had to do was play around with the scale to make that bar look really small or big and relative to each other, and it would completely make somebody think, oh my God, so, you know, the survey says so many people are doing it, but all you did was change around the scale and the bar could look, the relativity could change. The same could be true with AI. If it surfaces data to you with its blinders, biases, you know, this is why AI ethics is huge and AI governance is required. Similarly, subject matter expertise and the need for that isn't being erased. Like, young folks need to learn how to use AI, but in a way where they continue to maintain that critical thinking. I have a young sister, you know, who's a teenager, and she's like, well, what should I do with this AI thing? And I'm like, you know, you could critique the work that the AI produces for you, because now you are forced to know the frameworks, the knowledge to in order to critique work. Like, if we used to do peer review, why would teachers make us do peer review? Because it taught you so much about checking for what you were looking for, and you had to know what you were looking for. The same can be true as you utilize AI in your day-to-day.
Yeah. And that brings us actually why we have founded AI Future Leaders. I'm just going to say a couple of words that we are an AI education company with the mission and goal to educate young individuals, youth from ages 10 to 18, and actually even up. And we have got interesting programs for young women, for girls, and for co-ed programs as well. So do check us out at www.aifutureleaders.com. And thank you so much. Thank you, Noureen, for such an insightful thank you for such an insightful webinar, presenting such interesting use cases across different domains, across different sectors and industries. We've talked about data, the need for governance, the ethics, how AI is used in real life in the various companies out there, and maybe some of those hurdles as well of you do need good quality data, and you do need that oversight, and you need the right use case to solve the right business challenge. So I thank everyone for coming, and do check us out. And thank you so much. And if you have any questions, you could shoot us an email at info@aifutureleaders.com, and stay tuned for our next webinar. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.